for joining us today. It is a busy season. It is a busy time. Every single second of yours is so precious. So we really appreciate you spending a little bit of that time with us for this Donorbox Academy webinar. My name is Jenna Lynch, and I am the Education and Community Engagement Manager here at Donorbox. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Donorbox, Donorbox is an all-in-one fundraising platform designed to help nonprofits manage campaigns and boost donations effortlessly, whether that's online or on site. We have an AI-powered CRM, 4 times faster checkouts because we have no time to waste, you guys, and robust tools for sustainable growth. And we provide everything that nonprofits need to connect with their donors, build those relationships, and maximize their impact. Plus, you can start for free and access affordable upgrades as your organization grows. So you can join more than 80,000 nonprofits from all around the world that have raised over $2 billion in donations by simply visiting donorbox.org. There you go. And today I am so excited to be joined by Chris Barlow to talk about how to get those loyal, recurring donors. Chris is the father of 7 kiddos, a lover of sci-fi and fantasy books, and he is, most importantly, the founder and director of Beeline. And actually, I think you have a more fun title than that I need to update. What is your title on LinkedIn, Chris?
It's Customer Happiness Director.
I love that. Customer Happiness Director at Beeline. And you may have also listened to him as a guest speaker on the nonprofit podcast hosted by Donorbox a couple of times, most recently just last week. All right, Chris, I'm going to go off screen and I'll pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you guys all for joining me today. Thank you, Jenna, for the great welcome. So you may be wondering, why do I have a picture of myself and my wife, Lydia, on our wedding day at the beginning of this slideshow? Well, I wanted to share the story that is really relevant to one of the main things I want to talk about today. And so in the spring or fall rather of 2005, I was living in Hong Kong, studying abroad, and Lydia was visiting her family in Germany. And we knew at that stage that we wanted to get married, but there was still a big barrier in the way, and that was getting the blessing / permission from her dad. And it didn't work out for me to go interrupt my semester in Hong Kong to go to Germany. So I knew I was going to have to make a phone call. And needless to say, I was very anxious about making that phone call. And I had to figure out the time zone difference, and that was a little tricky. But thankfully, I figured that out when I was the best time to reach him. And thankfully, I did reach him at his office when he wasn't going to be inundated with busyness at home. And I don't remember everything that went through my head when I made that call. I do remember that I just basically called without thinking about it, because I knew if I stop and think about this too long, I'm going to be just way too nervous to do it. So I just dialed, and thinking back on that, and when I knew it was him who picked up the phone, I'm pretty sure I just had a really run-on sentence that I blurted out without taking a single breath, and it ended with, "And I want to ask permission to marry your daughter." There's something like that. And thinking back on that, I realized that if I had actually taken a little bit more time to think through my why, the reason why do I want to marry Lydia, and really understood what I could share with him and what I would want to say to him, and things like how I wanted to take responsibility, and just what my plans were, even if I maybe my plans would change, but if I just had some ideas in mind about what I wanted to say and the reasons why we wanted to get married, and then I might have actually felt less anxious rather than more anxious. And I think this idea of knowing our why is really, really important when it comes to attracting and getting new recurring donors. So today I'm going to talk about that. We're going to talk about why monthly donors are so important. You probably already know this, and you're here today because you think they're important and you know they are. We're going to talk about the key message, your value proposition, and how it is key to getting new monthly donors. And then we're going to look at a very powerful principle, or maybe you could call it a strategy, that will help you write a better value proposition and actually could help you in any area of your marketing to be more effective. Then we're going to look at some tips to start a monthly donor program or to upgrade your current monthly donor program. They're relevant for organizations that are new to monthly donors, or organizations that have been doing monthly donor or have a program in place. And then finally, we're going to look at a strategy to start 2025 off with a bang and really boost your monthly giving program. And then finally, we'll have some Q&A. So why are monthly donors so important? Well, a lot of you probably already know that in the last 8 years, average donor retention has remained around 44 to 45%. And this number is, if you think about it, that means we are losing more than half the people that we are bringing in. You're working so hard to bring in new donors. You're attracting people, you're nurturing them, and then over half of them are going away. And, if we were in school or if this was our work, if you were getting graded on your work and you got a 44%, a 45%, then that's pretty bad. But and we don't necessarily expect that we're going to be able to retain everyone, so maybe 45% isn't as bad as that. But did you know that monthly donor retention rate is around 90%? It's twice as good. We're retaining most of the people. We just have a little bit of lapsing, and that's kind of understandable. You can avoid some. And one more interesting stat that Donorbox shared when we were posting about this webinar and about our podcast last week is that monthly donors give on average 42% more than one-time givers. And it's not because necessarily their monthly gift is adding up to more than a one-time gift. It might, but it's also because a lot of monthly donors will give, again, a one-time gift in addition to their monthly support. And so we can see how important it is to retain these donors and to keep people, because we're just losing people otherwise. We're losing so many people. But it's hard enough to attract people who will give once. How can we then attract people to give on an ongoing basis? Well, this is a big question. And the question I want to ask now, to put your answer in the chat. Let's look at it from a little bit higher level, rather than saying, well, how do we get monthly donors? Well, what helps people decide to give in the first place? What do you guys think? Put your answer in the chat. Why do people choose to give to you? And again, this is a whole topic in of itself that we could cover in this webinar. There's science behind this. Connection to the cause, passion about it, seeing their dollar, what their money can do. They connect to your mission. It makes them feel good. Prizes sometimes. They're moved by it. Yes, because these are great. And let me share my two responses to this. And there's no real right answer. Everything you guys have said is true. And the first one is your value proposition, meaning the reason why someone would want to give, the impact that they can make, and the reasons they should give to you. They read and understand your value proposition and what they can do and the impact they can achieve through you, and they give. And the second reason people give to you is that it's not a reason at all. It's that your donors are the experts on why they give. And so our attitude and posture should be, let's ask them. Now, I'm going to back up my answer about value proposition with some data. And I'm going to reference Next After several times today. Next After is a great company, thought leader in the nonprofit marketing space. If you don't know them already, they do a lot of experiments, and they publish these experiments for public use in an experiment library. And they tested a donation page with a regular donation form against another, the exact same page with the same form, and all they added to that form was a one-sentence value proposition explaining why the donor should give monthly instead of once. So in one, it was just a regular form, and the other, there was a one-sentence value proposition. The simple one-sentence call-out increased donations by 450%, 6%. That's monthly donations. They increased monthly donations by that percentage by just having that single sentence right there. So just helping people understand why they should give monthly led to this result. And in another experiment, a different organization tested their donation form with a value proposition against another form with no value proposition for monthly donations, just to see if we remove this, does it make an impact or change results? Well, the form with no value proposition reduced donations by 40%, kind of reinforcing the fact that telling people why they should give, even in a single sentence, makes a big difference. So these just 2 pieces of data. There's a lot more out there that supports the value and importance of your value proposition. And common sense tells us too that telling why people they should give is vital. And if we feel like we're really struggling to get people to give on a monthly basis, and we even feel maybe some anxiety about it, like I felt that anxiety about making that ask of her father, that asking for his permission, maybe it's because we haven't taken the time to understand our why. Why is it in our donors' best interest to give monthly? Well, 86% of nonprofits don't provide a unique reason for why someone should give monthly instead of once. So if you feel this very common anxiety, it's probably because you, like most of us, haven't taken the time to say, why should my donor give on a monthly basis? And I'll put their name in the chat. That's a great question, Allison, next after. So if we haven't taken the time to ask or understand why, then we aren't able to explain that to donors. And so they aren't going to give to us in a monthly way. Now, before we get into how do we write an effective value proposition for monthly donors, let's just look at value proposition overall. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. So that your value proposition should answer this question: why should I give to you rather than to another cause or at all, and instead buy something for myself? So the more clear and the more simple you can answer this question, the more likely that your prospective donor will give. For your monthly donor value proposition, it's just one step further. Why should I give a recurring gift to you instead of a one-time gift, and rather than some other organization or not at all, and buy something for myself? Something that doesn't get talked a lot about in our space is that we are actually competing with for-profits for people's disposable income. Generally, people, beyond their basic needs, people have to choose, how do I want to spend this money? And as consumers, as a consumer myself, when I want to buy something, when you want to buy something for yourself, it comes with an obvious return. Like if you want to buy some chocolate, like the value proposition is obvious. Even if you personally don't like chocolate or can't eat it or whatever, you would understand why people would want to buy chocolate and eat it. So a company who sells really good chocolate, they don't necessarily, I mean, they need to explain to the consumer why they should buy their chocolate as opposed to someone else's, but there's some obvious return on investment there. But as nonprofits, we don't have an obvious immediate return on investment or surface level desire fulfillment. We're offering something that's fairly intangible a lot of the time, and it's always built on trust. Well, almost always, because our donors are not usually our recipients. Sometimes they are, but a lot of times our donors are not receiving something directly from us. They're not getting what they're paying for. They're trusting us to fulfill our mission, and they're relying on our storytelling and our reports to see that fulfillment come to pass. And so we have to really think through and explain why they should give. That's why the value proposition is so important. And again, most of us might have some level of explaining why people should give, but most of us have not taken the time to explain why they should give in a monthly manner. But before we dive into some tips on how to be more effective in writing these, let's look at some real world examples. Here's the ubiquitous example, Charity Water. Theirs is bring clean and safe water to every person on the planet. That's their one sentence value proposition. One thing I didn't mention is your value proposition can be a single sentence, or it could also be, and I encourage you to have more than one that's a single headline, one that's a paragraph, and one that goes in depth into what you really helps the donor understand more in depth what you offer, what your impact is. So bring clean and safe water to every person on the planet. High-Speed Rail Alliance, another example, making fast trains a reality. And then New Horizons Ministries, breaking the cycle of incarceration. I think these latter two could be even more powerful if they were a little bit more specific, like Charity Water. So if High-Speed Rail said, making fast trains a reality in the US. or in the top 10 cities of the US, or whatever, whatever they want to say. On New Horizons, if they said breaking the cycle of incarceration in Colorado, because that's where they're focused right now. And of course, over time, they might change that value proposition based on how their mission grows and shifts. But what we can learn from all three of these, and I think they're all good, is that they are clear, impactful, and help donors understand what you can achieve. It's not just a general like, we're there's a lot of organizations out there that have a value proposition that does not answer clearly what is your impact. And they all of these have some traits that are valuable or that are helpful as you're considering how to write one. So these three traits that I want to highlight are appeal, exclusivity, and simplicity. And again, to get a reference to next after, those first two traits come from them. And the third one is the one that we added. So appeal should answer the question, how badly do I, your donor, want to make this impact? So you're telling your donor, this is the impact you can make when you give. And how big is that? How important is that? How significant is that to you as your ideal donor? Because it might not be significant to everyone, but if I'm your ideal donor, then this should matter to me. And then exclusivity answers the question, can I make this impact anywhere else? And so if you're saying we are making fast trains a reality in the US, then if that's something that really is important to you, then this is what this is the cause that you should support. Because we're not trying to, if you're not interested in making fast trains a reality somewhere else in the world, for example, then you're not worried. That's not the exclusivity you're focused on. And so as your particular organization, when you're thinking about exclusivity, don't feel like you have to be able to do it better than anyone else. Make it very specific. Maybe your organization helps it, maybe you're in the cancer sector and you're not trying to compete with the American Cancer Society. Maybe you just one of our clients helps families who have children between the ages of 0 and 6, where one of the parents has been diagnosed with and is undergoing treatment for, or just finished undergoing treatment for cancer. It's very, very specific. And they do that probably better than most anyone else because they really, really know what that specific audience needs and how to help them. And then third trait, which we added, was simplicity. Can you, in a short sentence or a short paragraph, explain and express it in a way that anyone can understand quickly and easily? And I have this AI-generated picture of St. Jude Children's Hospital because they used to have a value proposition that focused on the scientific aspect of their work, the medical aspect, and it wasn't very impactful. And now I just love the simplicity and how compelling their value proposition is. Finding cures, saving children. I mean, that doesn't get bogged down into details about research. It speaks directly to the heart of why someone would want to support their cause. Now, that's just a headline. That's not, they can have another version of that. I hope, and I'm guessing they do, if you go into it and see how do they explain that in a paragraph. But the point is, if you understand, if that speaks to you, you want to save children, you want to help find long-term cures, then that's something that you're going to really want, then you can go into, well, how do you do this? What kind of research do you do? So how do we write a value proposition like this for our monthly donors? Well, here's some tips. Talk about long-term impact. And say, instead of doing this one-time short-term result, you can make a long-term impact throughout the entire year. Or you can say, ongoing supporters help us ensure that we have the resources in place and are ready to respond to an emergency or an urgent need. If something urgent comes up, something unexpected comes up, we don't have to suddenly try to put together a fundraising appeal and hope that the money comes in so that we can make this a reality. We already will have it in place. Even if you're not giving us more money, just by giving to us on an ongoing basis, the more people who give to us on an ongoing basis, the more we will have things in place. Or, hey, the more monthly donors we have, if you become a monthly donor, then we can plan better for the future. We can budget more accurately. And by being able to plan and budget accurately, more of your donation is going to go toward impact and programs rather than fundraising, because we will really know what we can do. And then finally, if this is near and dear to your heart, if you want this to be a reality, and you want to give regularly, why try to remember doing this whenever it comes up? Why not just make it automatic and make it convenient for yourself? So there are a lot of good reasons, and there's a lot more reasons why we could make our value proposition unique for monthly donors. But how do we know whether what we put together is going to resonate and get people to actually become a monthly donor? How do we communicate in a way that resonates with with our donors' feelings, thoughts, values? We might come up with something that we think is great, but when our donors read it, do they actually give? Do they actually join? So we need an easy way to step into their shoes and think of and understand, what are they thinking? How do they feel about what I'm communicating about us? What's motivating them? What concerns do they have? And you may remember one of the two responses I had to what causes people to choose to give to us. The second reason I shared was, our donors are the experts on why they are giving. And so the key to being able to have a message that resonates with them is active listening. If we actively listen, if we ask questions and we listen to people on a one-to-one basis or through our marketing, we can learn why our donors care about our cause. We can discover their feelings, their motivations, and the words that they're using. And if we can do that, if we learn those things, we can use those learnings to improve and have a very effective value proposition, to have high converting landing pages and donation pages, to write emails that get responses, to write ad copy that gets engaged with, and just to be responsive to our supporters. So how can we do this in a repeatable, simple way? Well, I think marketing is a really, really powerful tool to do this. Of course, one-on-one conversations with your donors, with your fundraising team can't be replaced, and that's also part of it. But marketing is really, really good about capturing words. And if you can capture people, the words that they're using, the emotions they're sharing, their motivations, then all you have to do is the hard part, take the time to analyze that and see the trends and use that to improve your marketing. So one strategy that I want to get practical then, how do we apply this principle of active listening, is in a post-donation survey. And I'm going to share a few other ideas too after this, but this is maybe the most powerful one, at least for us to implement now, especially thinking about recurring donors, is after someone makes a donation and you send them to a thank you page to confirm their donation, to thank them, put a short little survey right there on that page while they're still with you, while they're still engaged. Ask them, what method of communication would you prefer, going forward? Email, text, phone, snail mail. Then ask, why did you choose to give today? Make that an open-ended question. And anyone who answers that question is giving you amazing value, because they know the mindset that they just went through in choosing to make that gift. And in answering that question, you're learning, here was my motivation. Here was what I was feeling. And then you can take the words that they use, you can analyze across all the people who complete that survey, review, why did all these people choose to give, and put this on your donation page. Reuse their words. Retell your donors, hey, other people like you chose to give because of this. And if that describes you, you should give too. Seth Godin says, people like us do things like this. And so if we want to really have that sense of identity and common understanding between our donors, let's use their words and their thoughts. If you ask this question in a survey, what is your vision for our organization's mission? And you get people who answer that, these are the ideal people for your fundraising team to reach out to, because someone who's not just thinking about the direct impact they're making now, but they're thinking about the future, is someone who's likely going to be or could be a mid-level or major donor, because they are really invested not just in the moment, but in the future of your organization. And then finally, would you like to talk to one and share your story or how you're connected or how we can improve? Those are great people that are just going to, could be very engaged with your mission, and maybe even people who could be on the board. So just put together a post-donation survey, and that can really, really make a huge impact on your value proposition. A couple more ideas on applying active listening. This is a whole topic for a webinar in and of itself. We could go into this, but I'll just share a few quick tips. One, put a little poll on your website. Hotjar is one tool that you can use to do this, where you have a little pop-up poll and it says, are you finding what you're looking for? Or do you understand what our mission is? Yes or no. And if they say no, have a little empty box they can fill in, like, I don't understand, or I'm not finding what I'm looking for. And you're not trying to collect information. You're not trying to chat with people. You're just getting their feedback. You're listening to them. I recently sent out a survey to all of my subscribers, and I asked people, can you go to my website, set a timer for 1 minute, then come back and take the survey? And I asked questions like, who do we help? What do we do? What questions do you have after visiting? And I had such helpful feedback. In your email, to actively listen, instead of aiming for the typical target that we all aim for in our digital marketing, which is responses or replies, or sorry, which is clicks. We always aim for clicks. That's like the goal. Why not aim for replies? And encourage people to reply to your email and say, hey, have your email sent from someone in your organization with their name in it. And let people know, if you reply to us, we're going to respond. And engage with people on a one-to-one basis. And I don't think you're going to get overwhelmed with replies. And if you do, that's a good problem to have. People who reply to you are very, very engaged with your mission. So that is just a quick overview of how we can apply active listening in our marketing, and especially to improve your value proposition. Now, here's a few tips to improve or start your Giving Monthly program. The first thing you want to look at is make sure your donation platform makes it easy for people to give monthly. Now, a lot of platforms now offer this, but there's more to it than just simply having a monthly giving option. First, you want it to make it really easy for people to go in and manage their gift and update their payment details. And speaking of updating their payment details, it's easy and good to encourage people to just use their credit card when they sign up as a monthly donor. But I highly recommend within the first week sending an email to people asking them to switch to their bank information rather than a credit card, and let them know, look, credit card information expires all the time. It's really hard to keep track of where you need to update this. If you switch to your bank information, it'll be a lot more secure. It'll be a lot more stable, and it's not something you'll ever have to worry about expiring on you. And if people stay on their credit card, you can be certain that even if you have people who want to keep giving to you monthly, they're going to forget to update their credit card information, and you're going to lose that monthly donor. And this happens a lot. It's best practices if you want to retain people. And the next thing I would say that's important in terms of the technology piece is, if you want to have the option on your form default to monthly, make sure that the monthly gift is divided into 12 or 10. Because if someone says, I want to give you a $100 one-time gift, if you say, would you make that a monthly $100 gift? You're now asking them to give 12 times more than they were planning to give you. Yes, you're only giving them 100. They're only giving 100 now, but you're actually asking them to give a lot more money. And the goal isn't to get people to give more. Obviously, that's great too. And if we can encourage people to, that's part of our job. But in the moment of them making a donation is not the time to ask them to increase the amount. We don't want the monthly gift, the ask to give monthly, to be an increase in the giving, but to be a division, saying, hey, instead of giving us a $100 gift now, would you give us a $10 monthly gift? And here's why that makes a huge difference to us. So make sure your technology can do that, or you don't default to a monthly gift, because otherwise you're going to cause there's going to be a jarring effect to that. Hey, give it to us monthly, whatever you were planning to give. Secondly, write your monthly donor value proposition. Make sure you really understand why people should give to you monthly, and put that on your donation page. Third, segment your monthly donors and consistently thank them. It's the data is so bad on how much we're not doing a good job thanking people. And just in general, nonprofits not thanking enough, but especially our monthly donors are not getting thanked and recognized enough. So we need to segment them. One, just to make sure that they know that they're being seen, they're being appreciated, and we need to be able to treat them differently. If we have monthly donors, there might be some fundraising appeals that we don't want to send to them. And there may be certain ones that we do want to send to them. So make sure they're segmented. The fourth thing to do, put on your homepage a button for someone to give monthly. So if you have a donate button, put next to it, give monthly. This is just a little tactic, but 91% of organizations don't have give monthly on their homepage. And in one experiment, again by Next After, they found that adding that simple give monthly button increased donations by 144%. So really simple thing to try out. Maybe not guaranteed to increase donations, but it's absolutely worth trying, and it's an easy thing to set up. And then finally, within the first week of someone giving, make sure you send them a thank you, not just a receipt, but send them a thank you. And just, I can't emphasize that enough. If you want people to give monthly, and if you want them to stay as monthly givers, keep thanking them. Yes, Leslie, talking about the homepage of your website. Okay, last section for today. How do we go into 2025 hit the ground running and boost our monthly donor giving program? And how do we take what we learned from year end and all the stuff that you probably already have in place for year end and use that to help us launch in January? Well, you may remember you're most likely to lapse donors this year. 56% of your donors, 55, are going to lapse. And the ones who are most likely to lapse are those who only gave one gift this year. And so we want to keep those people, especially because, your fundraising team, you guys are going to be engaged with your major donors. That's not who you need to be, who you need to turn into a monthly giver. You can, there's value in that too. But really, you're going to be, and you're going to have individual one-on-one relationships with some of your mid-level and major donors. It's all these one-off donors that you're losing. And so take all of the people who give one gift in 2024, or maybe those who give less than $500 or $1,000, depending on the size of your organization, whatever your segment you want to. But I especially recommend people who gave just once, and segment them out, because this is who we're going to focus in on. And then we're going to make a case to these people about why they should become monthly donors. So we're going to write and send them a campaign in January, 4 or 5 emails. I'm going to go through 5 emails that you could send them. So in the first email, you're going to send them within a week of the end of the year in January. Just thank them for giving in 2024 and all that they accomplished last year. Let it be, again, this is about them. This is about what they did and about what they made reality. And then over the course of January, you're going to send that series of maybe 4 more emails. And you can kind of time it as you wish. Definitely want to have a few scheduled to go toward the end of the month, because you're going to, I recommend creating a goal in your mind for the number of monthly donors that you want to see come in, and the giving amount that you're hoping to achieve, monthly giving amount, and tie that to a real goal that you have for 2025. The more that you can have a real goal tied to real impact, real results, real programs that you want to bring into reality. Maybe you want to do some overhead. Maybe there's a new position that you want to bring in that will make ultimately a bigger impact. Whatever it is, tie the goal to something real and have that. Heather, I'll get into whether these emails are personal, automated. Ask that again during Q&A. I think that's something I'm not going to cover now, but it's a really good question. So in your first email, after you follow up with a thank you, tell them, imagine you were offered a gift of $120,000 today, or you were offered a gift of $10,000 every single month. Which one would you choose? And say, look, if we were offered $120,000, that would be really exciting, but there would also be a lot of pressure, because we would need to figure out, what are we going to do with this? And can we do something in a way that's ongoing? Can we invest in something that's an ongoing cost for us? Or do we need to do something that's just like a one-off expense? Because we don't know if this support will come back again. And there's a lot of pressure to try to make sure you're good stewards of that large gift and plan for the future. Whereas if you're given a $10,000 monthly gift, then you can think strategically and plan, and you don't have the same amount of pressure to make something happen with this. So what you can do, tell this story, a story like this, and then say, you gave at the end of 2024, $250. Thank you again for that gift. Would you give the same amount in 2025? Would you give us that amount again? but instead of giving us $250 at the end of this year, would you give us a monthly gift of $20 or $25? You could ask for a small increase. There's nothing wrong with that. But say you're not asking them to give $250 again just a few weeks later. You're asking them to give a small gift now. And then you're making a case for why if giving the same amount this year but becoming a monthly giver makes such a big impact for your organization, for them. And we're gonna, and the next emails will go into that. So the third email, you can talk about the difficulty of forming new habits. So you want to support our work. It's something that you value. And tell a story about how hard it was for you to start a new habit and how you failed. And say, no one needs to form habits unnecessarily. Like, let's form the habits that really matter. So if you give a monthly gift, you can make it automated and you don't have to create a new habit. And again, and then reiterate some of the value, some of the reasons why they should give monthly. Then finally, if you can, have a member of your monthly giving community share a testimonial. If you can do a video, even better, and just have them share why supporting your work in an ongoing manner is so valuable. And then finally, in the last email, and in each of these emails, remind your donors of your goal and how many more people you're hoping to see join before the end of the month, and reiterate why should people join by the end of the month? Why is that a deadline? Because you're saying, look, this is the impact we want to make is for long term, and so the more people who will join us now, the bigger impact we are going to make, and we can reach this particular goal that we're aiming for. And so in your last email, say, look, we have these two plans. We have the short-term plan and goal that we want to achieve, and we have this long-term plan. These are the programs or the outcomes we're hoping to do in short-term and long-term. Which of these two things would you prefer to be real, for us to focus on? And say, look, if you join as a monthly donor, we can actually do both. And here's why we can do both. If we get 50 people who all commit to giving $50 a month, we can actually get the short-term support that we need to make this a reality, and we will also have the long-term support that we need. And again, having that urgency to create of a deadline just gives people the push or that little bit of encouragement to make a decision. So let's wrap up today. Some key takeaways for you, and then we'll go into to a Q&A session. Your value proposition is the key message to attract new donors, and especially you need a unique one for recurring donors. And so think through that, understand your why, and write that on your donation page, especially a donation page that is encouraging people to give monthly. Understand who your donor is. If you want to understand them, you want to actively listen to them, you want to ask questions. And by doing that, you will learn so much valuable information. You will understand your people better, and you'll be able to write better messaging. You'll have more effective emails. You'll have a better value proposition. You'll have more effective website in general. And so active listening is ultimately, it's transformative for your marketing. And it's a principle that will never change. No matter what new platform comes out, no matter what new technology is out there, keep this principle in mind, and you will always be effective in your marketing. And then plan how you're going to do your January 2025 monthly donor campaign. Put together those 5 emails and launch that in January 2025, focusing on that smaller segment of low-end donors who gave once, and ask them to give the same amount again in 2025, but just as a monthly gift. So your next step, go to our website, yourbeeline.com, and you'll see a little bee in a blue circle. And if you click on that, it'll ask you for your email. It'll ask you for your website to understand who you are, who your organization is, and it'll ask you for your email. And you can say, here's who we are. Help me write a monthly donor value proposition. We are trying to put together, or help me refine our value proposition. And it will put together a customized resource for you based on what you're looking for. So instead of me giving you an ebook on here's how to write a value proposition, I want you to use this tool to actually create it for you. And it might just be a draft. It might not be ideal, but it's a starting point. And if you do that, you'll also get an automated email from me with which you can reply to directly to me. And you can say, this is what I got. Can you give any feedback here? Do you have any response, or can you help me? And I'm happy to respond, happy to see what we can do to help. We do provide services to help organizations write their value proposition, write their monthly donor proposition, even do some surveying and stuff like that. But even if you just want something for free, use our resource here. That's what it's there for. And I'm happy to listen and see what kind of results you get from it. So now let's move into some Q&A. And I really appreciate the time you've taken. And yeah, we've got a lot of time for any questions. Let's go to what questions that have already come in.
Thank you for that session, Chris. We've got some questions waiting for you for sure. Before we dive into those, because I don't want people to sneak off without hearing just a quick announcement from us. For our attendees today, for those of you who are working toward certification as a certified fundraising executive, full participation in today's workshop is eligible for one continuing education point in category 1B. So you can reach out to me at academy@donorbox.org if you'd like to grab that continuing education points tracker so that you can apply that to your certification or recertification. Okay, we have some good questions waiting for you. Let me go ahead and pull those up. Are you ready to be in the hot seat?
I am.
Excellent. I'm going to skip past the Donorbox questions right now so we can prioritize Chris, and then y'all, if we don't get to yours related to Donorbox, I will email you directly. So we had, I think Roger answered this in the chat really quickly, but I'd love to hear it from your mouth. Terry asked, how is a value proposition different than a vision statement?
They definitely have some overlap, but the value proposition is more focused on right now, why should you give? And you're answering this question, like, what impact do you want to make and why you can make it through us? What's exclusive about us? Whereas the vision statement might be like, here's what we're hoping to achieve in the long run. Again, there's some overlap, but your value proposition is really answering that question for the donor when you're trying to get them, when you're wanting them to give. So, and it's focused on the donor, because a lot of the times we're like, we want to raise $10,000 or help us get to this goal. And that's about you. And your value proposition is about your donor. Like, what does the donor want to make reality? So that's kind of the focus.
Excellent. Now, another question here related to those emails that you were talking about. Did you say send them 4 or more emails in January? Is that what we heard, right?
Yes, I would recommend doing at least 4 or 5 emails. Again, what you put in them, what I shared was just one way of doing it. But the point is to make a case for that person, thanking them, and then make a case for why they should become a monthly donor at the same level that they gave last year. Not asking them for another gift, saying, hey, support us again this year, but make it a monthly gift. And basically, here's why that's so impactful to us. If you can do this, if you can do that now instead of at the end of the year.
Excellent. Now, this one's been waiting for you. Are these emails you're talking about personal or automated, or one or the other, or both? What can that be like?
Yeah. So there are 2 ways you can go about it. You can just do automated, use your email service provider, send them automated. If you can figure out how to use Gmail mail merge, there is a way that you can basically have the emails come from your Gmail to a preloaded list. You can have the email itself, it's a template, and it'll just input like their first name and like the amount of the gift that they gave, because you just would pull some data from your CRM, like their name, the gift, the amount they gave that last year. That's pretty much all you need. Then they can come more like they look like they're personally from you. And I really recommend that if you can, because that personal touch will be more effective than your general marketing email. But if you can't figure that out, just use your marketing email. There's nothing wrong with that. The key is to make your marketing email come from a real person, not be super over branded. Make it look like a one-to-one communication.
Absolutely. And shameless plug here. If you're not using GMass or some sort of mail merge there, Donorbox Mail Center is one of our newer features in Donorbox CRM. And that brings your Gmail and your Outlook directly within your Donorbox dashboard. So you don't have to pull those CSVs and do all of those little administrative tasks. And you can plug in those automated fields and those gifts and have complete visibility of your communications with your donor base right there within your Donorbox dashboard. And Leah, we do work with MailChimp as well, but we are making some big improvements to our mail center and our email marketing, which will be coming out this quarter. So you might want to say goodbye to MailChimp. I still like them, but this will be an even more seamless workflow. So I'm dropping a link for our mail center in the chat. Okay, we have another one from Jen. If a donor gives during our Giving Tuesday, gives to our Giving Tuesday campaign for the first time, would you still contact them in January so the asks are back to back? What is that cadence that you would recommend?
Great question, Jen. I actually highly recommend you. Obviously, you're going to be thanking your new donors who gave during Giving Tuesday or end of year for the first time. But I highly recommend asking people to give again within the first 40 days. They've shown that people who give within the first 40 days are significantly more, I think it's over 90% more likely to retain if they give again within the first 40 days than if they just give the once. They just forget. People just forget. It's not like they don't care or wouldn't want to give to you again. So asking them again is a good idea. And again, there's this psychological thing that happens when we hit a new year, where, yeah, they might think that you just gave again, but you're talking about now we're in 2025. And again, the important thing about your email cadences is appeals are fine if you are spending most of your time nurturing people. Mm-hmm. If you have a lot of emails that if you're thanking people with no ask, if you're telling stories with no ask, and so if these are your first time donors and they gave for the first time in Giving Tuesday and year end, and you thank them again, which a lot of nonprofits aren't doing so well. So you will stand out if you do. And you tell them, look, this is a new calendar year. Here's our goals. Here's what we're trying to achieve. Would you give us the same amount? But don't give us $250 now, or don't give us $150 now. Just give us a $10 monthly gift. You're not asking for a big amount, but you're telling them what a huge impact that $10 can make if they do it monthly. If they're unsubscribed, well, they were going to relapse. 55% of them were going to lapse anyway. So the key then is, so for new people, you're doing what you can, but the other key is people will be happy to hear from you lots if most of the time you're nurturing them. So if they're not getting appeals from you all day, every day, every month, 3 times a month, whatever, if you're sending them an email every single week, and at year end, you send them 20 emails, and you only send 15 appeals, and 10 of those are in December and 5 are at some other time in the year when you do a fundraising campaign. People will love to hear from you. They won't care. They will not get tired of hearing from you.
I see some comments in the chat, some folks being a little weary of multiple touch points. And this is a question that I've gotten quite a bit too. And I'll address this as well. And Chris, you can chime in. We are becoming more and more distracted. We talked about this during our podcast episode. We are constantly scrolling, consuming 15-second content all the time. Our brains are never off and we're always in a million places all at once. I am personally grateful when I get multiple emails because I might have opened one, forgot what I was doing, and went off and did my thing. And there's a reminder for me in the next one, right? And I'm glad that I get those. And folks may not see all of those touch points. You have to remember that as well. If you send 10 emails, they're not going to see all 10 emails, right? You know your community. You know the people that you're talking to. This may sound like a big scary number, but I promise you're not inundating them when you're sprinkling in those impact stories and that gratitude along with those appeals. Anything to add to that, Chris?
Yeah, this is related. Leah says, if they don't want to be part of your newsletter, is it okay to contact them about a monthly donation? So one reason people don't want to be part of a newsletter is your newsletters are like information overload. They usually have so many images and so many links and so much to take in, and it's hard for anyone. And more data has shown that if you reduce your call to action on an email, like options for someone to click and take action or read more, it's from 5 or however many to 1, your click-through rates and engagement rates and donations go up by a huge percentage. I don't have the number in my head, but I would say people don't want to hear from newsletters. No one wants a newsletter. I mean, and I speak in very broad terms. Everyone wants to hear from someone they like, know, and trust on a one-to-one basis. So if you're writing your emails like a one-to-one email, telling a story, thanking them, does not feel like a marketing subscription to them. That feels, because it isn't really. It is because you're using a tool to send it automated, but you're actually trying to have an individual conversation with people.
Excellent. And another question from Thomas. Can you talk about the proper length for an email, about how long the read time can be? Thomas has heard 15 seconds read time is the appropriate length. I have no idea. Any thoughts there?
I would say, are you writing the email in a way that a person would want to read? Are you like, you guys have, over 100 of you have been with us now over 53 minutes. I think people have the attention span. If you're like, not everyone's going to read all your emails, right? We just aren't. But if you write emails that people like to read, you're telling good stories, when you make an appeal, you explain why it's about them, not about you. Then people, it doesn't matter if you have a really long email. I've been on a subscribed to this guy who gives marketing advice and for like more than a decade, and a lot of his emails are really long, and I don't read them all, but I read some, and I'll delete some and I'll read others, and I don't mind however much he wants to email me. I'll read the ones I feel like reading, but I don't get turned off by a long email.
Yep. And I'd say strategically bold the important things that you want folks to take away. We are naturally skimmers. That's just the way that humans work. So bold those important parts. Our eyes, first we look at the email signature, and then we look at the PS. Don't ever forget the PS in your emails, and then bold those important things so that if people skip straight down to the bottom, they still know what you want them to know or do what you want them to do. That's what I'd say there. So the PS, like, hey, PS, don't forget to sign up for a matching gift program. It ends December 31st, right? Hey, PS, dogs like Peanut also need support. Will you, whatever that may be. Hey, PS, you can get a free piece of swag if you sign up for, anything you want that PS to be, you can dream that up. All right, let's see.
Yes,
I think we've got Yes, postscript, exactly. From Aaron, is there a month that is best to send an annual donor report?
I actually don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I would say whenever you're planning to release it, like, that's your opportunity to like send some emails and let people know, at least a couple emails, say, hey, it's coming out this time, and give a little warm up to it. So. Yep.
And I'd say, I mean, in my experience in the nonprofit sector, all of our fiscal years end at different times. Some were in December, some were in July, and that's when we would try to have our annual report out. Some years it didn't happen very timely, right? But I think, yeah, if you're getting it out, great for you. And like Chris said, maybe warm folks up for that, to expect that before you launch it. There are a few questions about Donorbox that I did see pop in. I saw a couple about recurring donation options on our donation forms. Yes, we make it so easy for you within our campaign creator. If you're already a Donorbox user, you know how easy it is to create a donation form that you can embed into your website. If you are not, you can sign up for free at donorbox.org, create an account, create a campaign for free, and really experiment with those donation intervals, those calls to action. So I am dropping a link for a recurring donations page, and that will show you everything you need to know about how you can customize your donation form so that it is monthly donation or quarterly donation, whatever that cadence means for you forward, right? You can add in that call to action right there on your donation form so that folks are focused right there on the act of donating, right? And you can favorite and default that monthly giving option as well. And I did see a lot of questions. Chris, you sparked some inspiration in folks about the post-donation survey. Yay for active listening. There are a lot of great ways you can do that. Chris shared a couple as well. And yes, you can do that within Donorbox as well. what I will say is if you need help navigating this, send me an email at academy@donorbox.org, and I will send you some screenshots because I don't have time to share my screen right now. But in your post donation thank you page, you can include a short message that says, thank you for your generosity. Would you take a moment to tell us why you gave? They can click on that link and answer that survey, or you can direct them directly to the survey page as opposed to bringing them to the thank you page. If you are not a Donorbox user, you should be, but you can also collect those contacts afterwards, right? And send them an email. Send them an email because there is nothing better than an additional touch point and letting folks know that you see them, that you're listening to them, and they can fill out the survey that way. What else, Chris? Any final words before we wrap up our session today? I will share your email while we're wrapping up.
Yeah, feel free to email me if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, just don't be afraid to ask people to give. Ask and you shall receive. But treat people like humans, like a human being you want to get to know. And that principle will take you far. So.
Yes, I love it. We are all human. Talk like you're a human. Be authentic. Let people know that you see them, you hear them, you know who they are. And go forth and get those monthly donations. For those of you who celebrate, happy Thanksgiving. For those of you who do not, thank you for being here with us today. And thank you for all that you do to serve others. We're grateful to be a partner in that. And Chris, thank you so much for your time today. It's really been a great session.
Thank you, Jenna.
Bye, everyone.